There she is. Hello, beautiful. Oh my gosh, super pumped to get to spend a little bit of extra time with you today. I was just telling everybody that I just had an amazing coaching session with you only a couple of hours ago now. So I've been busily implementing all that stuff. Cool. So before I introduce you properly and get you to share all of your amazing wisdom today, I just wanted to let everybody know what the hell we're doing this week. And that is this bit of a series that I put together. And the idea is we're all in this time of isolation. You know, we're in a bit of a lockdown. Here in Australia, where we are, we're on, you know, some high up stages of lockdowns. Like we're even getting fined if we're found traveling outside the house, doing all sorts of stuff. If we're not going to get essentials, it's kind of crazy. So what I decided to do was, you know, tap into some of the incredible human beings that I have in my circle who are doing exceptional, beautiful, heart-centered work in this world and always looking to contribute to those that they get the opportunity to step in front of. So that is why I've invited the beautiful Anja Jereb Irving to come and join us today. And super excited because I get to hang out with this beautiful woman every single week doing my coaching, really trust her guidance, and she's had such a massive impact in my life. So let's get into it. So the very first question I'd love to ask you, Anja, just to start things off is, what are you most grateful for in your life right now?
Thanks, Vanessa. Look, I am grateful. I could find a lot of things. I want to go to basics because I think that, you know, in order to be grateful, we need to see things for as they are and they need to be enough. And that's what the gratitude is all about. So I think for me right now, no matter how many restrictions we have and what's happening around, I think just, you know, to be with the family, we're home to be, and, you know, food, and, you know, water. It's like, that's the basics. And I know, like, we're used to so much, you know, like so many things that we don't have right now, but I think that's the basics that we really need if you think about it. Because when it comes to, if you're thinking of life and death and, you know, something would happen, I'm pretty sure that we would all be like, if we can just, like, you know, that, like, survive and be safe and, you know, be with the family, that should be enough. And then obviously then you work around with, well, what else can I have? And yet I think for me right now, being with the family, having family, we're all healthy and fine and, you know, looking after each other. And what I've noticed, we're connecting more with each other because we have more time together. And one thing I was wanting to mention here is that when this is happening, it gives us opportunity to see what foundations we have, or if it's in the family or in a relationship, because obviously we're stuck with a, you know, a partner or a family. So I had some people say, oh my God, you know, like, this is hell. Like, I'm going to be with my partner for 2 weeks or with a family, with kids. And I'm like, it gives you opportunity to have a look. Well, if that's how you feel about it, maybe you should work on setting some boundaries with the family and setting some new foundation of how you can be. Because for me, even though it was like, oh, we're going to be isolated together. Okay. I went into, oh my God, we're going to have more time. For me, it wasn't that scary. And oh my God, I was really excited about, we can have more time together. We can connect on a different level and go deeper and, you know, like, do things that we've never done. So I tend to be focused on the solutions because I don't like feeling that I'm stuck in a problem. So every time it feels like I am in a problem, my mind always goes to, okay, what are the solutions? What are the possibilities? And I think having that sort of a mind really helps, instead of looking at the things, what we don't have and what we are not, what we are and what are the, you know, what we do have, and actually being grateful for that, instead of thinking, you know, having that never enough and, oh, and we have this and that, but then it's not enough anyway. Because that's how much most of us, we are like that, you know, like we think, oh, it's always something more. We set that benchmark so high, and when we reach it, it feels like it wasn't enough, and it gets pushed up straight away because obviously it's not enough. So being grateful, I think it's just knowing that whatever it is it's enough, and accepting the reality for what it is, instead of struggling to try to make it the way you want and control it into what you would like it to be, because obviously it is for a reason, and getting the most out of it.
I love that. So I'm hearing a lot of focus on the solution and surrender, you know, instead of trying to control. Yeah, absolutely.
astrology, that's one thing that I noticed working with clients or just observing people in the shops, you know. People are struggling because there's so many new rules. You know, every day there's new rules when you go to the shops, you know. And I notice people who are not adaptable, who want to keep things as they were normal, they struggle the most. As the thing is, well, we know this is not going to stay like this forever, but by the time this is it, we need to adapt and actually go, okay, that's how it is. Right, I'm going to go with it. You know, like the thing is, I think that this time can be used really well if we learn to change with it, because the thing is, you know, change is inevitable. It happens all the time. The thing that I notice with people is that not everyone progresses through. A lot of people go, oh yeah, change happened, or they even change themselves, like, you know, but they don't make progress through. And now it's really about how much progress are we going to make through these changes, because changes are here, they will be happening. We need to go with the flow, going, okay, am I going to progress through and evolve, or am I going to keep revolve around the old things and stay where I was and I get the same results?
I love that. So you can either evolve or revolve, you know, over the same old stuff. Yeah, I love that. That's so awesome. Definitely glad I asked you that question. And so now what I wanted to do is, you know, as a transformational specialist that you are, personal development coach, and also you're an expert in Indian astrology, I wanted to just ask you, so that those of our audience who don't yet know who you are, could you just tell us, you know, kind of a little bit of your history and what inspired you to get onto this path and do the incredible work that you do, which I'm super grateful for, by the way, because otherwise, you know, I think a lot of my own personal growth would have been a hell of a lot slower. I've had massive growth during our short time so far together. So let us know a little bit of your history.
Yeah, thank you. So I was very much interested in, I used to call it spirituality. Now I call it personal development, because spirituality is kind of an abused word and people kind of say, like, I'm spiritual, I'm being spiritual. For me, it's more like being in touch with yourself, like with your true self. And, you know, so personal development, I think it's really important because it helps you find those solutions I mentioned before. Because if we want to progress through life and change and evolve and raise our consciousness, obviously we need to have information that helps us change that perspective. Because, you know, we tend to solve problems only that it's in the, like, on the same level where the end of our horizon is. So we need to expand that, and which means you need to learn new things. So I used to, you know, like, you go to a lot of courses, and I used to be kind of like an information gatherer, until I realized that, you know what, I don't want to be just gathering information. I need to learn to implement that. And then, like, you know, I just chose, okay, I want to do astrology, and I finished life coaching. And so I just went, okay, I'm going to now do it instead of talk and wait until I'm ready. So yeah, so Indian astrology is very, like, I think it's very fascinating and like a really good tool that helps you get the insight into who you are and what's your journey here in this lifetime. So you get to see and find a lot of information that can help you serve in, not as a, you know, like, profiting, like, I don't work as a prophet or anything. It just helps you realize what are you here to do and what are the options, which means you use that information as a light that shines on your path, so you can travel easier and you can see that, you know, you can choose different paths. It's not just the path that usually you take, because subconsciously, if you don't have any awareness, that's all you can do anyway. You're just going to keep going, being, you know, guided by the subconscious. So I love that. And like life coaching, I mean, now let's call it more of a mentoring, because me and my husband, we have an academy for personal development. And we have people who are really interested in empowering themselves, becoming more aware, knowing that that can serve them in any life circumstances. Because, you know, when you're just coming to see a person one-on-one, very often people would come when they're broken, and when they're broken, they need someone to save them. And we notice that that's not we don't want to work with clients like that. We want to empower people who will come and want to learn about life and everything, you know, like, to gather more awareness so they can help themselves in those moments instead of being broken and then come and try to get saved by someone.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. That's actually what I love about the community that yourself and the amazing Jason Irving, who we'll have in tomorrow's interview, have really created in that community. Because, Yeah, there's no victims in there. Like the victims would get weeded out real easy. It's all about taking full responsibility for your life and being the creator of your life. And I absolutely love the energy that you've created there. So
Oh, thank you.
I want to, yeah, you're welcome. And so what I wanted to do, because you're somebody who has a very unique skill set and amazing knowledge around this Indian astrology. And I just find it super fascinating, as you know. And I'd love for you to share, because I don't think that this information is, I mean, I know there's a lot of information out there, but from a really trusted source, from somebody like yourself who's really vetted this system, who's really, you know, got a lot of experience in it, and has worked with many clients with it. I'd love to hear and for you to share your perspective through the lens of Indian astrology about, you know, this challenging time that the world is in right now. How does that kind of apply, and how could we gain some wisdom from that?
Yeah. So looking through Indian astrology from, you know, my perspective is that right now we are being called to raise the vibration of the planet. And that means that there's some sort of a clearing that needs to happen. And that doesn't mean that, let's say, that those people who are going to die were low vibration, not at all. That just means that the whole situation, you know, we're all in this together. And being in the same situation, the situation will bring different things out in different people. And having a look at it as maybe some, like a lot of people were going to have to go through and check through their values. Oh, you know, like right now, losing so many things that we know, it's like going, well, what was I doing anyway? Like, what, you know, maybe we're going to find out some new interests or new things that we, or, you know, we're going to really dig deep on the things that we kind of forgot about and kind of start doing them. So it's like there's going to be a lot of things coming out that we actually forgot about. So it's like we need to change. This is one thing that I can say is the world will never be the same again from what I see. And people who can't wait that the world's going to be the same and go back to normal, well, good luck with that. Because one thing I think, this is a massive change needs to happen. And you know how I said before, it doesn't matter, like change happens, but how much progress we make, it's based on us. Right now, it's like we're being a bit kicked and we will have to make some sort of a progress. So we will have to change. And that, like, again, you can change with walking towards it because you are aware that this, you know, situation requires change of you, or you can struggle and resist, and whatever we resist, we invite to stay. And those people are going to have a hard time. Like I said, if you're waiting things to be normal, go back to normal, they will not go back to normal. Things will have to change, want it or not. It's the level of change and what was that bring for the individual. But definitely there's going to be quite a few more months that, you know, this will be quite intense. And again, it's going to be on what we do individually with this time, because you can get something out of it, or so it's like you can progress through it, or you can let it stop you. I see a lot of people, you know, obviously fears are coming up. I'm not saying, you know, like it's a scary situation. It's like, you know, it's uncertain. You don't know what's going to be and how things are going to unfold. The thing is that we need to be really aware that, like, when things are the most uncertain, all the it's limitless possibilities that are laying ahead of us if we only look at it like that.
I love that. So yeah, so understanding and kind of just acknowledging and accepting and owning that, you know, the world's never going to go back to what it once was, but that doesn't have to be a scary thing, you know, to know that we're all at choice point, and to be aware of these changes and to not be resistant, to surrender to what is, and to actually decide, okay, like the opportunities and the possibilities are limitless. Like, where do I want to choose to focus? How do I want to progress? And, you know, any other sort of ways that we could be really stepping into a great, is that what it is? Is that it's like we're at choice point to decide what our energy, our vibration, I'm not too familiar with these terms that much, that's why I'm asking you, but is that the shift that we're needing to make in energetically? And what does that mean, if so?
If you think about it, like, in order for something to change in the world, like, you know, I've noticed some people are doing group meditations and meditating together. Sorry, in my opinion, I don't want to be judgmental. The thing is, though, if we meditate together, that's not going to change the world. You know what I mean? It's like you're sending out love. And for a lot of people, love equals abuse from their childhood. So they're actually sending pretty messy energy out there. The world will change if we all look at on the inside and check, well, who am I being in this world? What part am I playing? And how can I actually start changing myself so I can become a different person who will have a different ripple effect on everything around me, on everyone else, and be like, how can I heal myself and start doing something different? So then this actually can be my contribution to the change in the world that I want to see, instead of just being, because, you know, a lot of people through meditation is a great tool. I love it. Yet I see a lot of people escaping from life through it. Because if you just meditate all day, you're escaping from the life you need to live. So it really comes to that balance of, well, what do you want to do? So I mean, with the changing vibration means changing our own vibration individually. So not trying to project and save others and try and talk, or I see a lot of people projecting and blaming others. Oh my God, the government's not doing this, others are not doing this. Have a look at yourself. What are you actually doing? Well, what can you do different? And then start there. It's like changing that part of you that can actually then have impact on others, because it will. You know, who am I when I'm in contact with you? And if I'm your mentor or a coach, obviously whatever I tell you, it obviously is going to have some sort of effect on you, you know, and the more I work on myself, the better me you're going to get.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You just dropped you dropped so many bombs. I've got a few other questions based on that, because I was like, whoa, mind blow. I absolutely love this. It is so empowering. I think the key is, most of us, when left to just unconsciously direct our lives, we're trying to handball the responsibility of our life, of our circumstance, of our experiences to everybody around us. And that's how we're trying to empower ourselves. But what you're saying, and what I absolutely love, and that's why I'm grateful that I'm so connected to you and also Jason, is that it's all about taking personal responsibility and knowing that you're not, because so many of us, myself included, go out sometimes into the world and we want to save people. We want to rescue people. And we're doing it from a good place, right? We've got good intentions. We're just uninformed, and we don't realize that just that comment you made before, like, blew my mind. Like, people out there doing these group meditations, sending out love, right? That's coming from a great place. But what you said was so powerful in terms of, just because you are sending out a message or trying to project something out with positive intent doesn't mean it's going to be received that way. Because that individual, like you said, if their concept of love was abuse from their childhood, you're reinforcing that energy directly to them, rather than being the leader and working from the inside out and impacting your environment by changing what's going on inside of yourself, and rather than trying to control and be over responsible for the people around you.
That's so right. It's looking at, like, say for me, you know, I kind of looked at it as like, okay, so what do I need to do right now? How would I want to, you know? And then I actually went to see what was my first kind of a look into what I think the world needs. And it was like, oh, okay, so that's what I need to do for myself, not waiting the world to become it and other people to, you know, make it. I need to do that myself. I need to become the leader, and I need to actually become all that what I'm expecting out in the world, because the world is only my reflection anyway. So I just went to, like I said, like basics, like, you know, oh, I want to be a better mom. What does that mean? Take more time for my kids instead of being so busy all the time, you know. And when they ask me, hey, mom, can you do this? And not say, oh, sorry, and let me finish this. Actually, okay, prioritize maybe kids, or, you know, like everything. And then I'm returning back to my childhood. What did I not get from my parents that I'm still not doing, and actually becoming it? Or I can just blame my parents for my life. So it's like those little things. How can I change to become the person that I always wanted to be, instead of blaming others not being that, which is my projection of what I'm not achieving?
Absolutely. I love this. Yeah, because that's the thing. And we all hear it, you know, the world outside of us is a mirror. But I think how you've spoken into it gave such great examples in terms of, well, how does that concept even work? And like you're saying, you know, it really comes down to you doing your own internal work, and the change that you wish to see in the world is the change that you need within. So very empowering. Yeah.
And also, I think this is a great time for people to have a look at it. You know, like we have so much time now to actually to get in touch with our feelings, like how do I feel, and to become more vulnerable, take those masks off of who do we think we need to be in the world, and become more authentic. And it's like it's a perfect time to reflect and go on the inside, because the way I see things like right now is that, you know, so many things, like, I guess, you know, we can't go to the gym, we can't go shopping, normal shopping, like, you know, and we can't sit in the restaurants and cafes. What I see, what was taken away from us is distraction, because a lot of those things are nothing but distractions. So we are here, it's like sitting naked and actually starting to, you know, we need to learn to starting to like what we see metaphorically and what we is like to, I want to take what's still working for. Sorry, it was a bit of a, I'm not sure if you lost me. I lost you for a sec.
Yeah, I hope nobody else lost you when you were talking then, but I did. I had a bit of an internet issue, I think. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that would have just rolled. It was just maybe me losing the connection. So you mentioned distraction a couple of times, like in terms of how. Sorry. You got me back again? Sorry.
Yes, I don't know.
I think we've just dropped out a couple of times. I don't know. It says it's got full reception, so I don't know what's going on there. So my question is just in this concept of distraction. So basically, how do we oh, like that's the sorry, that just totally raveled me for a second. So so with the distraction, so that's the benefit you're really seeing right now, is this wake up call to what actually matters, and how many of those things that we've habitually fallen into the pattern of just having in our everyday lives is actually distracting us from what matters most. Is that kind of what's going on, you're seeing?
That's right. So, or let's say that, you know, I see a lot of people are such a go-getters. They're always busy. They're always doing something. And what it's like they're escaping from themselves. It's like, you know, when you're busy and you always have something to do, you don't have time to stop and reflect, and which means you can't meet yourself and you can't meet how you feel. And right now, it's like we're being pushed in a corner. There's nowhere to go but on the inside. So that's an opportunity to actually become more vulnerable, get into your heart, out of the heads, because most of the people are sitting in their heads all the time trying to control. And now it's time to go into the heart. Because the thing is, again, when there's no certainty and we don't know what's going to happen and how things are going to be, there's no other way but learning to trust and just go, be in a moment, go from day to day.
Absolutely. And, you know, speaking of that, going into the heart, you know, getting out of the head and going into the heart, I wanted to ask you about this concept of self-connection. So basically, I feel like when we're in isolation, where what will allow us to create a stability and a certainty, and therefore make some better choices with how we're going to perceive this current environment. I wanted to ask you, you know, how or what your best strategy is for people, or for yourself, or for coaching clients, whoever you're working with, for connecting into the self and creating some internal stability so that they're not rattled by the uncertainty around them.
Yeah, so it's kind of a link to what I said before. I think one thing is to learn to stop and to be actually comfortable with being still. And obviously there's always some resistance at the beginning, especially like I said, a lot of people keep used to keep going, doing things, And now the problem that they have probably is that they are focusing on what they lost and how they can't do what they used to do. So the solution would be to focus on where you're at, focus on what you have instead of what you missed out on, and think about how you can actually learn to be, to learn to be still and learn to be, to listen to what the feelings are coming up. Because a lot of people would have, like I said, when you have time to meet yourself, there might be some sadness or anger, resentment, I don't know, whatever you were trying to escape from would be coming up, and then learning to be okay with it and acknowledge it. Because feelings, all they want is to be acknowledged, validated, and then expressed. What we do is usually we reject, or we dwell in them, or we judge them, and which means, like I said before, whatever we resist, it persists, and we invite it to stay. If it's on the inside, it doesn't matter, it's not there. And when we are distracted with everything we do, usually we don't know it's there. But right now, I think it's a great opportunity to really go into the heart and feel and learn to be okay and stop judging those feelings and let them guide you, because our feelings are actually helping us figure out who we are and how, because we just need to express, who we are doesn't need to be explained with words. It needs to be felt in our heart and expressed, just like the kids, they're in the moment. They actually can be happy and then angry, and then they go sad, and they can switch because they're not actually attached to it. They just are like expressing it. And we need to learn to be the same without trying to, like I said before, or dwell in it or judge it or, like repress it. Or it's just let your feelings tell you what you need to do and how to be.
Oh, I love that you've shared this, because I think that it can kind of make people go, oh, what, really? Because we're so used to, having, kind of society telling us, hey, don't be in a bad mood, or don't have that. That's a bad emotion to have. That's going to create conflict or whatever it's going to have. And you should just bring logic to it. And, myself included, it wasn't actually until probably the last 6 months, and definitely in particular starting my work with yourself and with Jason, because I was alerted to this fact, because I came from, some incredible gurus out there and teachers out there who have put me on the path that I'm absolutely on, and they have so much wisdom and so much value that they've added to my life. But this one piece was really tripping me up. And what that was, hey, choose your emotional state. And it's got kind of good intentions again. But at the end of the day, for myself personally, what was happening, I was judging any sort of negative emotion, completely discounting its value or what it was trying to alert me to. And instead, just, putting that to the side, resisting that, and deciding, no, I'm going to be this. I'm just going to choose my emotional state and be that. And at the discount of actually feeling through and gleaning the wisdom from what those feelings and emotions were here to tell me and show me. So for those of our audience out there, or for people listening to the recording as well, what would you say to those people who might be kind of in that same mindset, that, hey, hang on a minute, you should just be able to choose your emotional state and not get caught up in your emotions? What would you say, and how would you kind of educate them on this?
So look, we need to understand that we have, all the emotions are equal. Because we don't know what to do with anger or with sadness, or usually we use it in a dysfunctional way, which creates the outcomes for us that are not what we would like to experience. And we think that they are bad and wrong, and we judge them. The thing is, it's like we need to understand that. Let's say, I love a quote that I heard once, and I just make some sense. It says, you can only be as happy as you allow yourself to be sad. So the emotions will have polarities, which means we need to acknowledge and learn to validate all, not just whatever we think is right. Because the thing is, look, I'll tell you an example. Like, you cannot escape, even if you're choosing your state and say, oh, I'm going to be happy today. On the inside, whatever you are not happy about is still boiling. No matter how much you fake it, you can't escape from it. You can try to convince others, or you're trying to even convince yourself. But your feeling on the inside, how you're feeling, is what actually creates a consequence on the outside. So that's like, one thing that I don't believe is the affirmations. Affirmations for me, that's just my opinion. I don't want to offend anyone if you have a different opinion. What, from my work and experience, is that when someone's saying, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. So they're trying to, affirm that they're okay. Well, the thing is, how is that really going to work? Like, if you're just saying you're okay, and you can say it all day long, if you don't believe with all your being that you're okay, that is not going to get you in a different state when you wake up in the morning. You will still not be okay. So affirmations only work, in my opinion, again, if you actually are affirming something. You need to, if you don't fall asleep on a different vibration because of it, they didn't work. You will wake up and you can't escape from whatever that not okay was. So if you actually want to, if you want to have a look at it, if you obviously think I'm okay, means you're not okay, otherwise you wouldn't be affirming I'm okay. What you need to do is have a look at it. Well, why was I not okay? What was my reaction, or what was the problem in the first place? And let's say that I wasn't okay because my mom didn't acknowledge me for something that I've done, and I was really expecting that validation and acknowledgement, and she just kind of brushed it off and talked about herself. Just an example. And I wasn't okay because of it. So until I actually have a look at it and go, oh, I'm really, I have these expectations and I want my mom to validate and acknowledge me, and I'm, going, okay, well, I can't change her. She can't give me what I want. She's wounded, and she obviously can't provide to fulfill my needs. So I actually can have a choice now that maybe I can start acknowledging myself and, stop demanding that from the external world, and actually just acknowledging and being aware of what the problem was and changing the perception can make me feel, oh, you know what, that's all right. I'm just going to let mom be who she is, and I'm going to actually start acknowledging myself more. So finding a new solution is what's going to make me feel okay. Until I find and deal with the obstacle, pretending the obstacle's not there is not going to help. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I love that. I think that's a really great example as well, because again, it's all about responsibility. And if you take an outside perspective, you get out of the zone for a minute and take a meta perspective on yourself and your mom in that situation, you'll actually get, and you focus on the possibility, you'll actually be able to reinforce to yourself that she's giving you the greatest gift possible. Because if those people, when we get caught up with that mentality of having to have something from somebody, we if they gave us what we wanted, we'd never grow. We'd stay the same and we'd need them. Instead of having the opportunity to empower ourselves, because that's not working, right? We're not getting our needs met by trying to just, drum a dead horse. So we actually have to do something different, and it starts from within. So yeah, it's so empowering. I hope that everybody's getting this level of empowerment. I'm like taking copious notes like I usually am.
I was wanting to add, how I said before, the world's never going to be the same again. I can relate it to this example now. So let's say the person who would be doing that, expecting the parents to validate and acknowledge them, and they're so, like stuck on that. Now it's like, let's say that the challenge is stop relying on that external, stop relying on your parents to, be proud of you and, acknowledge you and validate you. Actually learn to be it yourself. How can I become a person who can validate and acknowledge myself? And how can I be proud of me no matter what is happening externally? So that means the world will never be the same again, because I'm going to become a different person, and I'm going to be the one who's going to actually meet those needs, not the parents. Can you see the difference if you step into that greater self instead of wanting things to be normal, which means still expect my parents to meet my needs, still want my mom and dad to become what I needed them to be all along?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, and coupled with this whole concept that we're talking about in terms of like feelings, valuing your feelings, or not going into the whole logical side of things straight away, because if you didn't realize and own and acknowledge what you felt, in that dynamic, say with your parents, for our example here, then if you just got all logical and whatever, you'd actually miss solving the real cause, and you'd just be constantly trying to treat the symptoms and never really growing or progressing, and always still keeping that, that disempowered state of being, because it's reliant on something external rather than, again, pushing it inside and owning what those feelings are, and then deciding to be that source of fulfilling your own needs, rather than somebody outside of you that you can't control. And oh my gosh, that's all of our human problems, really, isn't it? A lot of the time.
Yeah.
Love it.
See how we're all challenged in our own way to find, well, what are our limitations? What's stopping us from living the life we want? And actually figuring out, well, okay, how can I actually step into becoming that person that I keep dreaming or talking about, or you know, like being inspired by, because everything that we're inspired by, that we see in others that we want to be, it's us, it's our true self that was lost. So we have opportunity now to step closer and find what that is.
I love that. That's so, so good. And, you know, that actually brings us into, that's actually a good question for people to be asking themselves, you know, like, what are they admiring in other people? And, you know, how can you bring more of that and own more of that within yourself? It's like you said, Anja, just a reflection of what you've already got, like step into it because it's inspiring for you. But it's kind of bringing me to the question that I wanted to ask you around clarity, because I feel like, yeah, we need that self-connection, but we also need some clarity. We also need to be able to focus our attention on something that inspires us and moves us forward rather than getting stuck in the negativity or the past or whatever that is. So my question is, what powerful question should we all be asking and answering for ourselves in order to gain clarity over an inspiring future, or focusing on what's most meaningful to get us through this uncertain time?
Okay, so one thing that I'm gonna, you know, kind of keep focusing on is that we need to know this is happening for us to really change and progress. So one thing that I would say to ask ourselves is, what am I going to do different when things go back to normal, in quotes? It will help. It will help us focus on that. How can I start being the different person already, setting some different new foundation for that life to start happening? Because you know how often we say, oh yeah, until when I'm married or when I have a partner, I'll be happy. Or we're always waiting for different circumstances externally before we can be and feel safe. And now it's a time of, well, how can I set a foundation, a different foundation, and which means how can I start being different now and actually be different. I just like
that's all right.
sending me, and it's because I'm on the phone.
Yeah, you're back.
So it's like knowing and preparing ourselves, and also with the clarity. What I believe about clarity is that clarity, people think the clarity will be there with, you know, just waiting and go maybe meditating on it. I think clarity comes with action, which means when you act and you move, the path appears. But we need to start acting and doing instead of just waiting and you know, like, oh, I'm going to wait for, because a lot of people, what I've noticed now are doing is, oh, it's not safe, and they go into the survival mode and they go into their cave and play safe and small because it's not time to take some risks. Big entrepreneurs, people who achieve big things, they use times like these chaotic times to create. And obviously why they can do it is because they go towards taking risks, and risks are always uncertain. They're not wanting to be safe and small. And you know, so I think it's actually thinking about, well, what can I start doing like differently, and what can I start doing that will get me closer to where I want to be. And so, because the thing is, if you think about it, our life is made out of, we are living consequences of our past choices, actions, words, whatever we do. Everything we do in life, that's what karma is. It's actually every action has a reaction, which means everything we do has a consequences. And thinking now, well, we're living the consequences, and if we don't like those consequences, what can I start doing differently? And then thinking about, well, what do I actually want in my life? You know, what do I want my life to be all about, and who do I want to show up in that world that I want to create? That will get us, and then actioning on it now, not when things are over. Be it now, instead of eating shitty food. You know, I had a client who said, oh, I'm so stressed because of all this. So I was doing so well with my food for 6 months, and now I'm back to eating shit. And I'm like, okay, well, that means that this is the way we do little things is the way we do big things. This is just a little bit bigger, scary monster right now, but that's how you approach life. When something scary happens, you go and you're stressed, and then you eat it instead of commit and actually see that bigger picture and the big why, and actually push through. So right now, opportunity to actually have a look at it as well. How can I actually stay true to my values, and maybe figure out what your values are, so then you can actually stay true to them. So let's say if you always put makeup on and you get dressed, if you're at home, do it anyway. That's what I do all the time. I'm not just like, oh, no one can see me, whatever. I have my values for a reason, so I'm going to be true to them no matter what. Yeah. And you know, so show up no matter what it is. It's chaos, or if it's, you know, like freedom or whatever it is, show up as a person you want to be, full stop. Don't let external circumstance determine who you're going to be. Like, oh, today I can't be this, I can't be that. Be you, full stop, no matter what.
Oh, I love that. And actually, that's one of the things that I really appreciate about you, because I haven't actually met another woman who shares that same value as me, which is, yeah, like I love to look after, part of looking after myself is getting dressed and doing my hair and makeup. Like, I mean, we're in lockdown, but, you know, we like to, you know, appreciate just looking after and taking care of ourselves. So love that. And one of the things that you just said then I thought was so amazing. There was a bunch, but the one I really latched onto then was the one about clarity through action. I think that's a real takeaway for people, because the vision that I actually got was, if you ever play one of those video games, or, you know, even computer games when I was a kid, and they're one of those ones where the character that you play, you can only see so much of the map, the terrain in front of you. You got to move in a direction, and then it opens up the map, and then you get more clarity. And that's kind of what kind of just popped into my head as you were saying that. And I think that's so good, because, you know, myself included, particularly in the past, I always got stuck on clarity. Oh, I'm not clear enough. I don't know enough, you know. And so I just spend my time attempting to get clarity, but it's really hard to conceptualize clarity without experience. And like you said, you know, you've got to get into the uncertainty. You've got to take risks, and every step you take outside of your comfort zone, yeah, it might be a bit of a risk, but that's the only real way that you're going to understand and get clear on your values, what matters to you, what's meaningful, and, you know, find out what is the right direction. So I loved what you just said then. And it does bring us, it does. Sorry, were you going to say something then?
No, I just wanted to say thank you.
Yeah, cool. So it does bring us into the next question that I wanted to ask you around challenge. So that's the other thing. And, you know, we've just kind of been talking into it, but, you know, in order to not be complacent during a time like this, and instead, like you said, you know, ask ourselves some good questions and get some clarity. It's also really great to challenge ourselves, to continue to expand ourselves, despite, you know, the fact that we might want to just sit on the couch and do nothing for this isolation period. But we want to have that sense of progress that you keep mentioning. So my question is, what inspiring challenge do you suggest that all of us do today to ensure that we're continuing to grow and expand and become better by the end of this little bit of time that we might be isolated?
Yeah. So I think it's a good time for you to have a look at, you know, to reassess and see where you're at right now in your life, you know, like what's happening, where you're at, to have a look at all the areas. What are you happy with? What are you not happy with? And I think mainly looking at the person as you are. Who am I being as a person? Because who you are as a person is creating the results in your life. And then I would look at it as, okay, so where do I want to be? So what do I want my life to look like? And it's more like, who do I want to be? And having a look at, because who do you want to be is going to get you different results. And then taking this time as a challenge would be to close the gap, to start closing the gap in between now, instead of waiting for, oh, I'll do it later when it's safe. So how you can do that is, if you can find let's say an archetype that you're being. So let's say that you are overgiver. So you're overgiver, you know that overgiving creates a lot of problems, and you want to become, let's say, a leader, you know, if that sounds like a better archetype. And what I would say is, you can write down as an overgiver, what are the parts of my role that I do? So I feel sorry for people, I take too much responsibility, I put others first. So you write things down. And then you can write as well, as a leader, what would I do? And then you can write, I would model things that I want others to do instead of give advice, or I'm going to walk the talk, and whatever that, you know, you would actually want to do. And to figure out what you want to be is look at people who you admire, or if you want to be like a strong person or whatever, just write down, well, what are the things that I need to start doing and being so I can get there? Which means it's like you just write down the rules of, well, how am I going to do that? So let's say if it I'm not going to take too much responsibility for others, you just write down, well, that means that I'm going to look after my needs first instead of drop everything, you know, take care of others. So you just write things down as, what could I do different And then it's nothing else but going through the list and going, and am I like thinking at the end of the day, was I playing a old role or the new role that I want to be? Because the thing is, whatever we want to be, whatever we want to become, or whatever we want to experience, is again, it's coming from our heart, which means it's calling from us, whoever we were before we got wounded through our childhood, which means we have opportunity to find who we truly are. But it's figuring out, giving up and stop playing the role that we learned to, that we adopted, and starting to play in, and starting to model someone who is the way we want to be, and actually starting to model of them. What do they do to get the result that I'm after? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I love that. So it's about getting clear on where you currently are, what you're happy with, maybe what you're not happy with, and then envisioning like, what is it that you want? Or more so, like you said, who is it that I want to be? Who is the kind of person that I'd be proud to be? And sometimes we do need to, like we mentioned earlier, you know, look to those people that we admire in this world, and what are those parts of them? What are those aspects of them that we can help ourselves grow more into, because that's inspiring for us and very much aligned with the kind of person that we want to be. And then, like you said, like close that gap. Like, what are the actions? What are those people doing? How could I study them? You know, that's one of the amazing pieces of value that you personally add to my life, is you are like the boundaries queen. Like, it's so good. Oh my gosh. And, you know, and I've had that tendency to, you know, be over responsible for other people and simultaneously under responsible for my own boundaries, my own health. And oh my gosh, like the amount of growth that I've had just working with you, and just even, I reckon I'd have it just sitting in your energy, you know, and just hearing how you deal with things and your interactions. And you really have such a beautiful way of being in absolute strength, in absolute health. And you're a fabulous role model, definitely for me, and I'm sure anybody that you connect with, in terms of having healthy boundaries. And actually, you know, something clicked with me just because I was thinking about all the work that we've been doing earlier. We were talking about taking responsibility. And I feel like I made that connection point. Like, it's like responsibility, taking responsibility is boundaries, right? Like, it's not about, you know, taking responsibility for other people that are out of your control, who aren't willing to look after themselves, and then you burn yourself into a pit, and then you feel, you know, guilty for then putting some boundaries in place to just like protect yourself and actually step in the direction of health. Oh my God, I just articulated a big part of my story, you know, but it's actually, you know what, if you're going to take 100% responsibility for your life and be in the driver's seat, that means knowing what's healthy for you and making sure that you uphold a standard for that and educate people around you. And that in itself is actually serving everybody around you, and being that role model and modeling for others, like you said, what's healthy, what's not healthy, and getting out of that cycle of trying to save people in order to feel okay and good enough, and instead do it from the inside out and be that role model, which you definitely are.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I love what you said. It's really important for people to, you know, like boundaries. It's like, that is something that I see that a lot of people struggle with, not even knowing. Because the thing is, you know, when we're growing up, if the boundaries were not something that we talked about, we wouldn't even know that we have them. So it's really essential to figure out, well, okay, so where do I end and where do you begin? Which means, where does my responsibility end and yours begins? And then being able to, you know, strong enough to set those and not actually give up on them when someone abuses us and doesn't want to respect our boundaries. So, you know.
Absolutely. I think I'm going to have to bring you on again sometime, and maybe we'll focus purely on boundaries in relationships and things like that, because I think so many people, you know, I work with many clients around these issues as well. And, you know, there's always another layer and another level in this realm. So, yeah, and I definitely consider you the queen in this area. So we should definitely do a deep dive on that some other stage. So the final question that I have for you, I will get to actually in a moment. I think I'll just jump into some of the comments that we've had And then I want to get you to leave everybody with another bit of wisdom. But we had a couple of comments here, just getting through them. Jerry, yes, I think to be grateful is our biggest asset, and will make everything enough from most of the little things in life. Absolutely. That's why, start with gratitude, because, at the end of the day, you can, focus on what's wrong, what's missing, or you get to focus on what's right and all you have. And, they're two very different experiences of life. And yeah, so gratitude, massively powerful during this time. Tim said, messy energy of childhood love. Great aha moment for me too. That was really, really powerful, because I think it can wake up people who have great intentions, but they're uninformed. They're only operating at this one level, and they're just projecting, like you said, onto other people rather than understanding what's going on for others. So awesome. Manoj was asking if you're an Indian astrologer. So yeah,
it's called Vedic astrology or Jyotish. Yes,
Jyotish. Okay. And just so people are aware, because I hadn't actually heard of Jyotish astrology, how is that different to what most people think of when they think of astrology in the Western world?
So it's just a different. So the Western astrology, like Western astrologers, they don't consider that the world spins in its own axis. So obviously, because of that, and because the fact is that it does, obviously there is it's a sidereal or tropical, like what is it called? Sorry, I don't know in English. But yeah, so it's just a difference between the signs. So you would be a different sign in Indian astrology to the Western one. And Indian astrology considers ascendant as the most important. So that's why it means you go deeper. So it's called karmic astrology. And because you get to find out not just describing personality, but you actually go deeper on seeing your life missions, your purpose, looking your karma, which means, like what consequences are you here to leave, and that sort of stuff.
Absolutely. And it's fascinating stuff that I love diving into with you. So awesome. And Jerry said, thanks for this awesome interview. You are so welcome. And Tim says, two brilliant people. Awesome. So many cut-throughs. Love hearing that. And Tim is asking, does this approach consider a mind, spirit, body, movement connection or integration? So I think he's referring to the work that you do. Does that consider the mind, the spirit, the body, and integrate all three?
That's right. Yeah. So it's like we kind of are trying to acknowledge it's not just our physical self. We have a emotional, physical, energetic, and which one did I forget? Emotional, energetic, physical, mental, yes, bodies.
Yep.
So which, like, and we need to acknowledge all, because even like, if you get sick, sickness can be coming from emotional body or energetic that you don't obviously know until it's there. So just healing the physical, sometimes it's not enough, because emotional is the root, or your energy is leaking out and then creating the physical. So it's like we need to integrate and actually acknowledge all and as equal.
I love that. And I think, yeah, that's one of the keys that I have really, really reveled in over these last few months with you and Jason, is really acknowledging all levels and not just getting, kind of one-sided in what's valuable in terms of, yeah, just like that, I look at them as different levels of or not levels, but different areas of intelligence, your body intelligence, mental, emotional, spiritual, and you definitely need balance. That's what it's all about, right? So love that. Thanks for the question, Tim. And Jennifer's here, and M is loving it as well. All right, so that's really cool. Want to thank everybody for joining us today, because it's cool to have some interaction. And this is Anja's first Instagram live, like it was my first on Monday. So I feel like I'm giving some people some firsts with this weird series that we're putting together. But I wanted to ask you if you had any final thoughts that you'd love to just leave everybody with, who have been able to join us today in this uncertain time, and how to just keep in the growth zone instead of the fear zone.
one thing I was wanting to say is ask yourselves, what do I want to get out of this situation? Don't focus on what am I missing out on, because if you think about it, how we create problems, because problems don't exist, we create problems with the way we think about things. And if you focus on, oh, we're missing on this is shit and it's uncertain, and like, then obviously all you're gonna have is feel more of that, and all you're gonna see is the problem. So to focus on a solution is ask yourselves, what do I want to get out of this? It's like, so what changes can I implement that I'm going to actually be able to be grateful for the time? Because when I look back onto the fires that we had in the summer, for me, being a European, that was so, like, it was very challenging to go through something like that. And yet now looking back, I have learned so much, grown so much from the experience. I'm talking about my internal one. What was that all really happening? What was that bringing out in me, and fears I had to overcome and all that. And I have done the work, and I got amazing results now, and I'm handling this situation so much better because I've learned so much before. So I think it's really looking at it, what do I want to get out of this? And yeah, I think surrender, stop controlling, surrender to whatever it is, and have that trust that whatever it's going to meant to be, it's going to happen anyway. We think we can control a lot, but we really control little. So yeah, that's kind of it, I think.
That's so true. Jason just joined us. How cool is that? We've got Jason, so Anya's amazing husband. We've got an amazing interview coming up with him tomorrow. I love that he just was able to join. But yeah, absolutely, Anja, I love what you just mentioned there, and particularly around, this surrender instead of control. I think that's just so key. For all of us, we're trying to control, that's what's tripping us up the most. So surrender and focus on the solutions. Is that what you're saying? Yeah,
that's it. Yeah. So just really having a look at, have a look at, and be, like I said, it's going on the inside. What is this bringing out in me? Is it fear of survival? Is it fear of death? A lot of people I've noticed are scared of dying. And to me, it's like, well, what if you actually had a look at, is it like fear of death is usually fear of living fully? And maybe having a look at, well, how do you want to live your life? Do you want to keep playing small and safe and then dying with regrets? And a lot of people now actually scared of dying might be thinking, I didn't do all these things that I wanted to do. And maybe it's time, start doing them now. Don't wait until it's over. Just start being whatever you wanted to be, and do things that you wanted to do now.
Beautifully put, and such a great way to tie up and wrap up our amazing interview today. I just want to thank you so much for spending the last hour with us, Anja. I love every moment that I get to revel in your wisdom and your strength, and yeah, just being in your presence always,